Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be doing a little bit of a conversation about the newest trailer to drop, the first trailer, in fact, for Spider-Man No Way Home, really the official first film to come out in Marvel's Phase 4. Since Black Widow really took place in the past, this is really kind of the first iteration as far as a movie is concerned. Obviously, it does have to follow in the wake of three quite subpar Disney Plus shows, and also we can already start to see some issues with the world that's being presented here, especially with what is established in the show Loki. But before going any further into that, please make sure you smash that like button. Hit that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So this new trailer can really be summed up in a very concise way, which is this is all about nostalgia. This movie, this franchise, this specific film is reliant on nostalgia to try and have people excited for the movie. Now, I do think that nostalgia is a very powerful tool. I know that for me, when I saw someone like Alfred Molina pop up on screen as Doc Ock, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I loved Alfred Molina as Doc Ock back in Spider-Man 2. I really am excited to see what they're able to do with it, despite the fact that he does look very artificial in this early image. I wouldn't be surprised if they had some type of de-aging effect going on here. But again, based on the initial trailer, doesn't really look all that great, other than the fact that it is still Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, which I think anyone who is a fan of the Spider-Man films, especially the original trilogy with Tobey Maguire, is going to want to look at this and say, okay, this is awesome. This is so cool, right? The nostalgia. And again, nostalgia is a very powerful tool. You then also look to images like this, and you do have a voiceover from the Green Goblin. And now there is, of course, that conversation about, ooh, are we going to be able then to get to see in a really cool light Willem Dafoe's return as the Green Goblin? Because if that is the case, that's going to be awesome, because Willem Dafoe was an excellent Green Goblin. I mean, Willem Dafoe is just a fantastic actor in general, and just having him back in this world, having that persona once again, could be awesome. Again, nostalgia, getting people excited. The most exciting parts of this trailer was everything dealing with what came before. And I think that is also pointing to what is one of the biggest issues with not only this film, but also Phase 4 going forward, is that unless you have nostalgia, unless you have better ideas and better concepts to rely back on, you really don't have much else other than some artificial, messy narrative. And you're already starting to see a bit of that messy narrative come up with just the very premise of this film, which is that you have Peter Parker, who, of course, if you saw the last Spider-Man, his identity has been revealed. One of the other things you have in this film is you have the voiceover of Jonah Jameson. Of J. Jonah Jameson. Obviously, that is really cool just to have that character back in that way, because, again, that dude is awesome. And so it's really cool to hear him and to have him involved in this film once again. And so in order to try and get away from this, he decides to go to Doctor Strange to say, hey, can you cast a spell to make people forget that I am Peter Parker? And Doctor Strange, who you would think at this point would know the consequences of playing with time and all these other things, would, maybe have some doubts about it. No. Apparently, he's just like, oh, yeah, you know what? I can do a spell. I can do a spell, even though, of course, he is warned by his friend and his sidekick. He's saying, don't do the spell, don't do the spell. He decides to do the spell anyway, which, again, seems just to be very much against the character that's been established. You think that, especially after the events of Endgame, that Doctor Strange would not want to just play around with time or with magic, willy-nilly, just to try and save this one kid. Again, that just kind of seems very out of character and nonsensical. Then you actually get to the casting of the spell, and again, you have the Sorcerer Supreme here, who is supposed to be just really good at this stuff, and then all of a sudden, you have Peter Parker just saying a bunch of random things and distracting him, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, so this dude can just be distracted and now is not so very good at magic, and somehow the spell ends up opening up the multiverse, is essentially what is being established here, which creates a wide mess of problems, because everything that's been established so far with Loki, for instance, is that the TVA is supposed to come in and stop these events from happening, or right after these events happen, to try and clean up the timeline. So now you just have a giant narrative mess, because where's the TVA in all this? If the TVA is still active in all of this, where are they? If this is taking place after the TVA is down, okay, well then now you have more questions as far as what the hell is going on with the timeline, and how do we make sense of any of this? And I think that is one of the issues that, not only was established with Loki, but is also going to be a big problem with this and then the future Doctor Strange film going forward, is that I think that the narrative is going to become so convoluted and so messy, and you're already starting to see little bits of that in this movie. I think that it's going to end up leading to a lot of confusion from fans, a lot of confusion from general audiences, and I think it's going to end up leading Phase 4 into this direction where the story isn't going to be very good. We already know that they're going to be pushing characters that people in general really aren't big fans of. We already know that there's going to be very much a political agenda, especially as they're pushing forward certain properties and certain names going forward as well. So all you have then is a bunch of messy characters with a bunch of messy stories, and the only good thing that's going to really be left is nostalgia. And nostalgia can only take you so far. I know that a lot of initial reactions to this trailer has been, oh, this was a really good trailer. And I agree. I think there's some really cool elements in this trailer. But when I was able to kind of watch it and step back for a second, I said, oh man, there are so many elements of nostalgia in here. It's almost as if they realize, oh, we can't just sell this story of a multiverse of madness unless we're able to bring people like Alfred Molina back, unless we're able to bring Willem Dafoe back. Basically, unless we're able to bring people back from better films, from a better time, as it were, when things were still pretty good for the comic book movie in general, before things just became such a mess. And even with those positive elements, you're still looking at this movie, and it's just, again, the use of CGI and green screen, blue screen has just become so standard in these films that it just becomes just distracting. It's just old. It's kind of like how you look to a lot of films that come out from Disney Pixar nowadays, and they all kind of look the same, right? They all have the same style animation. It's almost like there's no real innovation anymore. That's what it feels like for these movies now. It just, everything just looks so digital. Everything looks so artificial. And I feel like they are missing opportunities, even with just Spider-Man himself. I mean, the fact that they're still using the whole nanobot technology instead of using a traditional Spider-Man suit, it's like, okay, no longer is he really Spider-Man. Like at this point, he's not your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Now he's just Tony Stark Jr. at this point. Because there's a point where, again, when Doc Ock shows up, all of a sudden, just boom, the suit just, comes alive because he's using nanotech. And it's like, oh, okay. Again, I know that that's been established in this universe, but it's also just kind of distracting because you're like, okay, this really isn't Spider-Man anymore. And I know that that's kind of been a complaint for this universe for a long time, is how they've kind of convoluted a lot of these storylines and everything. And again, this is all trying to make way for what they're going to be trying to do in the future with bringing characters like Ironheart into the picture. Again, very unpopular characters from the comics, really part of the downfall of the comic book industry. They're going to try and bring in and slam down people's throats. And again, if you have nothing but nostalgia can only take you so far. If you bring back Tobey Maguire, hey, that could be really cool to see. If you bring back even Andrew Garfield, right, that could be really cool to see. It'd be really cool to see all of these people from a better time. It's sad to say that the Amazing Spider-Man series was a better time in certain respects. Again, I think that you're going to realize that you have a very empty shell of a world, a very empty shell of a franchise. And if all you have is nostalgia to get people like me and others excited, I think that you should realize that your new stuff, your current stuff, isn't really doing it. If I'm more excited to see Alfred Molina, even in this, de-aged CGI artificial look, if I'm more excited to see this than I am to see another Tom Holland film, again, I think that should be very clear as to the issues that are currently going on with this. And obviously there's rumors of a lot of other people being involved. But again, Spider suit, very artificial. This is essentially Iron Man Jr., who happens to be also Spider-Man at this point. Again, it's just kind of a bit of an issue there. And obviously, you do have confirmation of rumors, again, that again, just don't exist. You don't have any confirmation yet of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. I imagine that you're either not going to get that at all from any of the trailers, or you might get that in like the last trailer before, I wouldn't be surprised if they put out a trailer a week before the movie comes out, and that's when they're like, hey, here's some things that you might see in this movie. But again, what are those elements going to be that they're going to sell? Nostalgia. Right? It's all going to be about nostalgia. And even though I do like Doctor Strange as far as Benedict Cumberbatch's showing up in here, I do like his portrayal. I just like him as an actor. I personally don't mind Tom Holland as Spider-Man either, because I, again, like him as an actor. I know there's a lot of people that have opinions about how accurately he portrays the character, but I do think still that there are a lot of strong characters. There's a lot of strong people that are a part of this, and I just don't think that they by themselves really have any sense of standing. I think that at the end of the day, all you have is nostalgia to be able to get anyone excited. And I just don't think that is going to be enough. Again, when you look at these three, I think to myself, okay, yeah, I don't mind seeing their relationships on screen. I don't mind seeing them interact as friends on screen, but I don't care about that. Give me more. Again, my instant reaction is give me more of Willem Dafoe. Give me more Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. Give me Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. And then throw in some Tobey Maguire as well. In fact, let's just make this a Tobey Maguire movie again. I mean, it's like, again, nostalgia is pretty much all this film, really, at this point. has going for it. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. Obviously, I know that there's probably going to be a lot of MCU stands that are going to be like, this was amazing. Ooh, you're just hating it for the sake of hating it. It's like, no, these are just my honest thoughts. Like, when I saw the trailer, I said, oh, I love these nostalgic elements, but that's about it. That's about all it has going for it at this point, because everything else is just an artificial narrative mess, or what's going to be very clearly a narrative mess. Endgame was already a narrative mess, and then they just continued it with their MCU shows, so what's to say that they're just going to stop continuing that on at this point? But those are just my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Did you like the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer? Again, I think there's some interesting ideas in here, some interesting concepts, but at the end of the day, I'm really only excited for the nostalgic elements here, and I don't think nostalgia is a justification for a movie being good or for a movie being worth going to see. I mean, again, I would go see this film just to see Willem Dafoe back on screen. But again, that's my motivation, which means that eventually you're going to get to a point where he's not going to be on any screen in the future, right? Because they're probably only coming on for these movies to replay their roles in this very, again, limited way. So once that's gone, once you don't have nostalgia, once you lose all of your original characters and all you have are the new characters that are not motivating enough, and all of the new characters that you do have coming in to try and replace them are all a bunch of, politically motivated choices and characters, again, you can kind of see why the end of the trailer is, the end of, rather, the MCU is very much at hand. So, again, this film is supposedly coming out on December 17th, exclusively in theaters, so not coming out on any, service in any way. Obviously, this is a Sony product, so this is not something that would be able to go on Disney Plus anyway, right away. But it is, again, very popular. It's already got 21 million views as far as the Sony Pictures official page is concerned, 1.6 million likes. So obviously a lot of fans are liking it, but I do think there is cause for concern. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you had, again, liked it or didn't like it. And thank you again for coming by. Make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button as well. It really does mean a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my August Locals, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members, starting off with my Locals crew: Cat's App, The Real It, D Sharp, Biffer the Hobbit, Robert Barnes, and Goblin Squatch. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on Locals. And now on to my Patreon members: Andrew Hoyle, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father. Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And lastly, to my Subscribe Star peeps: Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And a shout out to one new member, Hannibal Grimm. And a huge shout out to newest members, Brandon and Joe Horn. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Subscribestar, and to everyone for supporting me on these platforms. Also, a shout out to all of my YouTube members. You get shouted out at the end of every single live stream. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and every video, please check out my Locals Patreon Subscribe Star. And you can go ahead and find those links in the top link of this description. You can find, it's called the Willow link, and it'll have a list to literally all of the social media platforms and all of the different ways that you can support the channel. If you join at the $1 level, you can actually get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream. $5 level gives you that, plus you get access to exclusive giveaways of 4K titles. Right now, I've got tons of 4K steelbooks to give away this month, including for Top Gun. I also have A Quiet Place Part 2. I have Snatch on 4K, the John Wick trilogy on 4K, and also I have a Sicario 4K disc as well, and a bunch of others that are going to be coming in this month too. So if you want to have access to any of those types of exclusive giveaways, join at the Army of Asgard level. At the $10 level, the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get all of that, plus you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, including instant reactions when I go to see movies. I do quick little filmings of myself and talk about the films that I have seen and my instant reactions to that. You also get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger once or twice a month, and you get to also ask us any question that you want. We put a Q&A post up, and you get to ask us whatever it is that you want to ask. So again, if that sounds cool to you, keep it the Bifrost level. And lastly, there is the Chosen of Valhalla level, where you get all of that stuff. Plus, in your first month as a Chosen of Valhalla member, you get a free t-shirt, your choice, ship it anywhere in the world. And also you get to once a month be featured on the OMB Reviews channel, and you get to talk with me. We usually chill out for 3 to 4 hours, and I ask everyone what they've been watching, what they want to talk about, what they want to promote, and it's always a really good time. And so if that sounds interesting to you, please consider joining. That is going to be on Subscribestar and on Patreon only, as Locals is just the keeper of the Bifrost level. But anyway, thank you all very much for your time, for your support, and for listening to this shout out video. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.